Okay, let's talk about transport in cells. We're going to look at active and passive transport through the cell membrane. That's inside and outside the cell membrane. All right, cell membrane is amazing. So basically, it's the regulator, right? Its job is to make sure what good stuff is coming in, bad stuff is coming out. It does that by this somewhat complex phospholipid bilayer. Bi meaning two, phospho meaning a phosphate group, lipid meaning two fatty acid chains. So that's kind of how this works. So the outside is hydrophilic. You know what? Hold on. I'm going to get my pen out and do some pen writing. Okay, I'm back. So you have this hydrophilic, water-loving part. And then you have this water hating. Boo, water. Hates water. There. That helps to regulate what's coming in and out of the cell in its own very special way. And we're going to talk about that, about transport. So cell membrane has four main parts. Now, keep in mind, cholesterol we're only really going to find in animal cells. The rest of the stuff is going to be in both plants and animals. So you have your phospholipid bilayer, which is this. Okay, you've got your cholesterol, which just helps with the fluidity. These proteins can move back and forth. They can kind of slide along the lipid bilayer. You then have your proteins, which are these bad boys. And then this is just a glycol group. This is just sugar. And that helps for things like communication, cell signaling, kind of letting this, it's kind of like a lookout person. It's an antenna. It's letting the cell know what's going on out there. Okay. Nope. Yes. Passive transport. Okay. So you know how like in the beginning of class when I'm trying to like pump you guys up and be all positive energy and get you excited about what we're going to learn and you're sitting there staring at me, sometimes you're breathing through your mouth, sometimes you're not. Passive, right? You're just like passive transport requires no energy. So it's like you're just sitting there, you're looking, kind of like a people mover or like you're just sitting there, like a monorail or an L track. You're sitting there and you're being moved, right? So passive transport, one big example is diffusion. Now, again, this plasma membrane comes into play in that certain molecules can go through no problem, right? Your lipid soluble molecules like your oxygen, your carbon dioxide, your water, right? Your polar molecules can go in no problem. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. So when we talk about the different types of passive, you know what, I'm going to just do this. Hold on, wait. There we go. That's it. Okay. Wait, hold on. Let's do this. Okay, better. Sorry, guys. Osmosis, diffusion of water, and facilitated diffusion. Zero energy. Zero energy. No energy used. So this is kind of the basic example of diffusion, okay? So you have diffusion. High concentration, it spreads out, and then you have basically equal. You have equal parts, right? It's equally spread throughout the solution. Everyone's getting along. Everyone is copacetic. Everyone is just hanging out equal. Think of it like when something smells really bad and you're like, oh, it smells so bad. And then after a while it goes away. That's diffusion of particles. Those odor molecules are real close to your face at first and then they diffuse outward. So it's, again, no energy. This is kind of naturally what they would do. So you've got a high concentration. This little square means concentration. High concentration, and then it's moving to a low concentration. Right? No energy needed. This is the natural movement anyway. So osmosis is just water. It's the diffusion of water. Again, high concentration, to low concentration. We see this in cells a lot. Right, so key here with osmosis is water. Now, there are different types of solutions, and different things do different things in solutions. You can write that one down. Write that gem down. Different things do different things. Okay, that's where I have my PhD. So here's the main solutions: isotonic, hypotonic, and hypertonic. Okay. So isotonic, again, equal, right? Everything is copacetic. The water inside the cell equals the water outside the cell. No big deal. This is going to be your isotonic. This isotonic is the middle one. Okay? Now, hypotonic, I always think of like hippo, right? So water is greater on the outside than the inside. It goes in and it swells. Hypo. So it causes the cell to swell to look like a hippo. Generally what happens then, the cell bursts, okay? This is going to be hypo. And then you've got hyper, where we see this with salt, right? There's a greater concentration. Water concentration is less on the outside than the inside, so it shrinks. I always think of the example of like if you're hyper, people that are like hyper, always running lots of energy, they tend to be like Adderall, for example, or caffeine. Sometimes if people do that a lot, they lose weight, if that makes sense. So they're smaller, they're hyper, so they shrink. Okay, guys, not all of them are winners. So hypertonic. So what happens here is this is what happens of a red blood cell. This is a red blood cell in different solutions. This one is going to be, just take a moment and think about it, which would be iso, hyper, hypo. Okay, time's up. This is going to be your isotonic, because these are what goes out, comes in. If you've got a larger movement outside, this is going to be your hyper. And remember, this is swelling, so it's going to be your hypo. Cool. So facilitated diffusion, if it can't go straight through the cell, it needs a little help, and that help is through a carrier protein, okay? So what happens is you have like your membranes here, and then you have a protein that goes like this. And everything's hanging out. And say this molecule is too big, right? So it can't go through, it gets rejected from just the membrane itself, but it can slide right through this carrier protein, okay? That's facilitated diffusion. Again, no energy, but that little like channel helps it get through, okay? So for example, muscles and calcium. This happens with calcium. Calcium can't get through, so it kind of goes through these calcium channels. So here's another example of diffusion. So you got your channel, passive transport. This guy is just cruising on through, no big worries. This one needs a little help. Kind of like when you're on TV, they always show people like a bouncer. So think of your plasma membrane like the bouncer, okay? And maybe this is like Kanye West. He gets in no problem. Boom, I'm in the club. This guy is like maybe not famous, but it's a friend of Kanye's, so he needs Kanye to help him get in, right? Okay, you know what? They're not all my examples are. Active, here we go. Since passive requires no energy, this requires energy. So instead of going, so no energy was going from like high to low, that makes sense, right? That's passive. Active is going to require energy, so it's going from a low concentration to high, reverse. Because you're going against the gradient, this is going to be active. This needs energy. All right, so here's some examples. Membrane pumps, like the calcium kind of pumping, or not, that's a bad example because that's a bad example because that is passive. So certain membrane pumps, like to get ions through, they'll pump different ions through. Endocytosis is a lot of molecules coming into the cell, I have a picture to show you too. Exo is a lot of molecules going out of the cell. That's basically it. But so here we have endo and exocytosis. So this is where things like the lysosomes and the vesicles, okay, this is where they come into play. They take, so for example, they'll take this garbage and they'll spread it out. They kind of will combine with the plasma membrane for a hot second and then spread it out. Food taken in, yum, 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 yum. So that's kind of how that works too. Okay? That's basically it, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, because I know I did. And we'll go over this. Bring your questions in. I'll take questions tomorrow. And yeah, so there's that. Thank you. Bye.